So this is the next video in a series of videos where I'm talking about how I achieved financial freedom by the age of 47. I'm passionate about educating people into how you can change your life and have your time back by becoming financially free. And I'm sharing my experiences in the hope that other people can learn from it. So the next big lesson about financial freedom is understanding that life is a risky business. There's no guarantees in this life. Nothing is without risk. The only guarantee is that actually none of us are getting out of here alive. They used to say that the only certainty was death and taxes. But to be honest, if you've got enough money and you know the right people, it's ways to avoid taxes as well, in quite a legal way, to be honest. So the only real certainty is none of us are getting out of here alive. Everything in life is a calculated risk. We calculate some risks more carefully than others. Now, I can pretty much guarantee that most people have got involved in a relationship at some point in their life. You know, you might be married, you might have a partner, you probably have a long-term relationship, and some of those work better than others. That's a calculated risk that all of us take at some point, and to be honest, most of us don't calculate it that carefully, and yet it's one of the biggest decisions in our life. So if we can take a risk on that kind of thing, then a lot of it's suddenly about checking the risks that you're comfortable with and understanding where those risks are coming from. Now, to be honest, there are inherent risks with cash in the bank, and most people don't stop and think about that. The reality is that a bank savings account at the moment will probably be paying you 0.01%, well less than 1% anyway, and that's per year. Now, if you think about it, inflation historically has run at about 4%, and we've got circumstances where inflation is starting to rise. So even at that 4% inflation, actually you are losing money because your money is only growing at 0.1%, whereas inflation means the things that money can buy is growing at least 4%. So that money in the bank is actually losing money. It's costing you money. And if you understand that, then it's just a question of understanding, right, well, if you're going to do something different, what is your risk appetite? What risks are you prepared to take? And that's about educating yourself. It's about learning where your risk profile is, where your risk threshold is. And I can give you some examples. So I've got quite a lot of experience of investing in stocks and shares. Now, I tend to do it through funds rather than day trading. If you want to be an expert, then by all means learn about that, because people do make money out of that. But for me, that's too high a risk. I'm much more conservative than that. But even so, on average, I've been investing in stocks and shares funds as opposed to the individual shares for probably well over 15 years now. And on average, I'll achieve about 15% a year in growth, which is well ahead of inflation. Now, it isn't without risks. COVID hit us, March 2020, I lost £70,000 overnight. But in my experience, I understand the risk. I know there's a track record. If I hang on to the investment for long enough, it does grow in the long run. So I actually made all of that money back, plus another 50,000 in a period of about 20 months. Now other things have happened, and guess what? I've lost some of that again. But I'm not losing at a rate where I lose everything. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not a financial expert, and you know what? If you choose to invest, you could lose the lot. And you could. That's a genuine risk. So it's about understanding the risks that you're concerned about and the risks that you're prepared to learn to take. But the reality is, I've seen the benefit of going into slightly riskier investments than leaving the money in the bank, because leaving the money in the bank's a risk anyway. So stocks and shares type investments is one I'm comfortable with. I'm also comfortable with property. I've been investing in residential property for quite a long time. And again, I've seen that grow over time. Now, I started off as an accidental landlord, but I've made the decision to purchase other properties. Not a lot. I'm not after a massive portfolio. I'm more driven in providing homes for people, and that's important for me. But I do make a little bit of money from a small residential portfolio. So those are two areas where I've already got a passive income coming in. I've got commercial property in my pension, and that's a skill that I've learned recently. So again, that helps me just accelerate how my pension's growing. And remember, I said I want to leave that as a legacy for my grandchildren. So I want to see that grow and me not actually have to touch it. But that's a different risk a different risk profile to residential property. I'm comfortable, of course, with those risks because I've seen it over time. My experience is that I get income in from rent, and also the value of the property will go up in the long run. But in all of those cases, you will still see falls in the short term. And it's understanding about how long you're prepared to lock that money away to gain the long-term benefit. And actually, if you can't afford to lock it away for long periods of time, then don't take the risk. Those are the things that you need to learn, and those are the things that I've learned. See, I told you I think in decades. It's all about passive income. Now I'm learning some new skills. I've got a small stake in cryptocurrency, and I've also started investing in myself. So I've written a book, I've done a workbook, I'm developing a training course. Those are assets that I'm creating, that I own, that in the long term will sell themselves through a website, and I get a passive income from those. So what I've been able to do is spread those risks in several areas, and that's a key lesson. Where one market's rising, generally another market's falling. So where the risk's higher in one area, it's lower in another, and vice versa, which just means that over time I can continue to rely on a passive income that I no longer have to go out and work for. So that's an important lesson. Learn the risks that you're prepared to take, and that is about educating yourself. But everything in life is a risk. Don't forget that. So have a think about where you are right now. What kind of risks are you comfortable with? What risks are you not comfortable with? Do you fancy learning something new? If you're willing to learn something new, that could take you on the path to financial freedom. If you're liking these videos, that's great. Please press like on each video and feel free to subscribe to the channel.